My name is Clara Vance, and I am 36 years old. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother called to tell me that I was no longer welcome at the family dinner table. She said my younger sister, Chloe, didn't want any drama this year. Drama, that is the word my family uses for me, not the toxic lie that has been permanently attached to my name for 3 years, not the massive amount of money they still legally owe me. Just me, the drama, the problem child. I didn't argue. I didn't cry into the phone. I just hung up. But the following Monday morning, I stood at the post office counter in my quiet Pennsylvania town, holding 4 certified envelopes. What was inside those envelopes set my parents' phones on fire before the sun even went down. I had 68 missed calls by 9:00 p.m. that night, and what I said to them on my own front porch at midnight, absolutely none of them saw coming. Least of all, my sister. Welcome back to the channel where quiet women finally stop paying for other people's peace of mind. If you have ever been called difficult just for telling the absolute truth, you are home here. Drop a comment below and be sure to subscribe, because stories like this one never end the way the toxic family expects them to. Let me tell you who I actually am, because my family tells it very differently. I am a financial advisor. I own a successful 2-person wealth management firm on Main Street. My name is painted on the glass. I built it from nothing, working night classes while keeping a full-time day job, and I paid off my own small house by the time I was 34. Numbers are honest. If a column doesn't balance, it tells you straight to your face. My family, however, rounds the truth to the nearest convenient lie. 4 years ago, my father's heart gave out. Triple bypass surgery, 2 weeks in the ICU, and a mountain of medical bills that landed right on top of a house mortgage they had secretly stopped paying. The bank was threatening foreclosure. My parents never actually asked me for help. They just talked loudly about losing their house at Sunday dinners, staring in my direction, until I did what I was trained to do. I drained my personal savings, opened a line of credit, and wrote them a check for $52,000 to save their home. But because I am a financial professional, I did it properly. I drafted a legal promissory note, notarized, modest interest, requiring payments of $400 a month. My family mocked me for it. Only Clara would make her own parents sign paperwork, but my dad signed it. And for 13 months, the $400 checks arrived. Then, 3 years ago, the checks simply stopped. And nobody in my family ever mentioned the massive loan again. To understand why they stopped paying me, you have to understand what happened with my grandma Evelyn. Evelyn was my mother's mother, and she was the only person in our entire bloodline who looked at me like I was a human being, rather than an ATM. She spent her last 4 years at Oak Haven, an upscale assisted living facility. Because her hands had developed a severe tremor, she legally appointed me as her power of attorney to manage her finances. Not my mother. Not my Aunt Brenda, me. You're the only one in this family who can read a bank statement without moving her lips, she laughed. Her physical checkbook was kept locked inside the facility's administrative safe, signed in and out through the front desk. Keep that detail in your mind. It matters more than anything else. 3 years ago, in September, I sat down at my kitchen table to reconcile Grandma's quarterly statements. The columns didn't balance. I ran the numbers 3 times, my stomach going ice cold. Exactly $9,400 had been secretly drained from her account over the summer, a run of forged checks from her personal checkbook. None of them were mine. None matched any medical invoices. I did exactly what I would tell my clients to do. I flagged the fraud with the bank, and I called a family meeting. I handed my mother, my Aunt Brenda, and my sister Chloe complete copies of the bank statements. I offered to hire an independent, third-party accountant to trace every single stolen dollar. I found the missing money. I reported it. I was the only one demanding an investigation. But as I looked around my parents' living room, I watched every pair of eyes slide directly toward me, the one person who legally held the power of attorney. Then my younger sister, Chloe, who sells luxury real estate and curates her life for Instagram, sat on the arm of my mother's chair. Soft as a silk napkin, She delivered the sentence that would cost me the next 3 years of my life. Well, Clara is the one who handles all of Grandma's accounts, right? I mean, I'm not accusing anybody. She never formally accused me. That was the evil genius of it. She just lit the match, dropped it on the floor, and walked out of the room. A toxic lie like that doesn't sprint. It seeps into the floorboards. By Halloween, my Aunt Brenda was repeating Chloe's non-accusation to the entire extended family. By Christmas, women at church were squeezing my mother's hand, whispering that they were praying for our family troubles. I fought back the only way I knew how, like an accountant. I sent every relative a complete copy of Grandma's financial records. I begged our estate attorney to host a family meeting where anyone could cross-examine me with the documents on the table. My father declined on behalf of everyone. "This family is not a courtroom, Clara," he said, acting like I was the villain for wanting to clear my name. "Here is the terrifying trap nobody warns you about. You cannot clear your name if nobody will formally accuse you of the crime." There was no judge. There was no trial. There was only a suffocating whisper with my name inside it, moving from kitchen to kitchen like smoke under a door. Grandma Evelyn passed away the following March. Her estate went through official probate court. The judge reviewed every single transaction I ever made as power of attorney. I was completely cleared. My stewardship balanced to the exact penny. The court even officially documented the missing $9,400 as unauthorized withdrawals. Source undetermined. Copies of this legal exoneration were mailed to my mother and Aunt Brenda. Neither of them ever opened the envelopes. A judge cleared my name, but my family refused to turn past the cover page because the truth didn't fit their preferred storyline. Over the next 3 years, my family exiled me without ever officially saying the word. The first Thanksgiving after the lie, I was seated at the folding table with the toddlers. The second Thanksgiving, my mother called and suggested I just come for dessert. This year, the invitation shrank to nothing. My mother simply called to say Chloe didn't want any drama and that I was banned from the house. I texted my mom later that night. I asked her one simple question. "Mom, look me in the eye. Do you actually believe I stole Grandma's money?" She didn't reply for 6 agonizing hours. When she finally did, it wasn't a no. It was just a tired, manipulative command. "Keep it pleasant, Clara." That is when I finally understood. My mother wasn't a victim who had been fooled. She was the referee, and she had decided it was much cheaper to keep the family peace if Clara just stayed guilty. That same week, a delivery driver left a heavy cardboard box on my front porch. The return label read, Oak Haven Records Department. Oak Haven had recently been sold to a corporate chain. By law, the old physical files of deceased residents had to be sent to their last designated emergency contact. Me. Inside that box was 4 years of my grandmother's life reduced to manila folders. I went through it with tax season discipline. Near the bottom, I found the copies of the forged checks. The handwriting on them was smooth, entirely unlike Grandma's shaky, trembling cursive. And then, in a folder labeled Resident Services, I found a single piece of paper that stopped my lungs from working. It was an official incident report, dated June of the year the money vanished. A front desk nurse had logged, in tidy blue ink, that the resident's granddaughter, Chloe Hayes, had officially signed out the resident's personal checkbook from the administrative safe and returned it 2 hours later. There was a signature line at the bottom. I know my sister's signature the way I know my own heartbeat. The date Chloe signed out the checkbook was exactly 11 days before the first forged check was cashed. For the first time in 3 years, the chain of evidence had absolutely no missing links. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I wasn't triumphant. I was just incredibly quiet, doing the saddest mental arithmetic of my life. The next morning, my mother texted me. "I will give you the message exactly as it arrived. Leave Grandma's heavy roasting pan at the back door Wednesday morning. Chloe is hosting Thanksgiving. Do not come inside, it will just upset everyone. Keep it pleasant." Read that again. Not, "How are you?" Not, "I love you." My family had banned me from the front door and was now scheduling a curbside pickup at the back door like I was a delivery service. They didn't want me at the table. They just wanted my roasting pan. I looked at the pan. I looked at the box of evidence, and something inside my chest finally snapped closed. "The pan stays," I whispered to my empty kitchen, "and so does the evidence." I hired a ruthless attorney 2 counties over, someone with 0 connections to my family's church. She reviewed my documents for 40 minutes, took off her glasses, and gave me the legal reality. The $52,000 promissory note my father signed was completely alive and enforceable. With the missed payments, the balance was $46,800. Chloe's theft from the estate was legally pursuing, and her defamation of my professional character was grounds for a massive lawsuit. My attorney drafted 4 terrifyingly polite, legally binding letters. I took them home, unsigned. I genuinely wanted to give my family one last chance to be human. I compiled a binder with the court-approved accounting, the forged check images, and the nursing home incident report with Chloe's signature on it. I drove to my parents' house and begged my father through the screen door to just look at the proof. "I will not have you bringing lawyers and investigations into this family," he sneered at me. "Your sister cried for a week because of your drama." I set the binder gently on his welcome mat and walked away. The next afternoon, the binder was shoved into my mailbox, rubber banded shut, every page unread. Stuck to the front was a yellow sticky note in my mother's handwriting: "Keep it pleasant." That Saturday night, my mother left me a voicemail reminding me to leave the roasting pan on the porch. Then, in the exact same cheerful breath, she said, "Oh, and Clara, the homeowner's insurance bill arrived in the mail. $1,900. You'll take care of paying it like you do every year, won't you? Okay, love you, bye." I stood in my kitchen and actually laughed. Banned from the dinner table, but officially billed for the roof over it in the exact same week. I took out my favorite ink pen, signed all 4 legal letters, and on Monday morning, I walked into the post office. There are 2 kinds of mail in this country. Regular mail is a message. Certified mail is a permanent record. The moment those envelopes crossed the counter, my family's toxic lies stopped being family matters and became legally documented ones. Wednesday, 11:40 a.m. My phone buzzed on my desk. Delivered, 4 of 4. By 1:00 p.m., I had 9 missed calls from my mother. By 3:00 p.m., 22 missed calls. The text messages started stacking up like hail shattering a windshield. "Aunt Brenda, how dare you? She is your mother." Chloe's husband, "This is low even for you, Clara, sickening." My father, 4 back-to-back calls, pure silent rage. By 9:00 p.m., the counter stopped at 68 missed calls. My family had not called me 68 times in the previous 3 years combined. I sat at my table eating takeout with my best friend, Sarah, listening to the voicemails on speakerphone. My dad was screaming about lawyers and disrespect. My mother was sobbing her fake, careful tears, begging me to just keep it pleasant, Clara, please. But Sarah noticed it first. She pointed at the phone and said, "Clara, not a single one of them is asking if the letters are true. They already know." At 11:52 p.m., headlights swept across my living room curtains. Car doors slammed. My doorbell rang twice. I stepped out onto my freezing front porch. My father, my mother, and Chloe were standing under the yellow porch light. Chloe's husband stayed in the running car, watching safely from behind the glass. My father started screaming at full volume. Family, blood, loyalty, lawyers at the holidays. I let him scream until he ran out of oxygen. Then, I said the first thing I had spoken all night. "You are screaming on my porch at midnight, Dad. I've been standing out in the freezing cold for 3 years." That took the wind entirely out of his sails. He looked down at his shoes, his voice dropping into panicked bargaining. "Look, tear up those legal letters. Tear them up right now, come to dinner tomorrow, and we will forget any of this ever happened." It wasn't an apology. It was a hostage negotiation. Before my mother could speak, Chloe stepped into the porch light. For the first time in 3 years, her fake Instagram mask was completely gone. She looked exhausted and terrified. "Do you think I wanted Grandma's money?" she snapped, tears in her eyes. "My husband was out of work for 11 months, Clara. We were 2 missed payments away from losing our house. You want to know what I did with the $9,000? I bought groceries. I paid the mortgage. I bought my daughter's braces." She wrapped her expensive coat tighter. "I keep this family looking perfect. The photos, the holidays, the appearances. That is my job. You wrote checks, Clara. But I wrote the story. And the story desperately needed that theft to go away. You were already the weird sister with the spreadsheets. It was just easier if everyone thought you did it." I stood there in the cold. She had let my reputation burn to ashes for 3 years just to keep her fake reality show life warm. My mother grabbed my freezing hands. "Clara, please," she wept, offering me the ultimate prize. "Come tomorrow. Your chair is still at the table. Chloe will tell everyone it was a simple bank error. By Christmas, it will be like none of this ever happened. All you have to do is tear up the letters. Come home, sweetheart." I am going to be brutally honest with you. I wanted to say yes. The lonely, exiled child inside of me wanted her seat at the table so badly my teeth physically ached. But then my accountant brain locked the numbers into place. A bank error. My name would only be cleared through another toxic lie. And my seat at the table, it was only mine as long as I paid the mortgage, the insurance, and the price of their secrets. They weren't offering me my family back. They were just offering to sell it to me. I gently pulled my hands out of my mother's grip. "No," I said quietly. My mother's face crumbled into pure rage, but I held up my hand to stop her. "I am not tearing up the letters," I said, my voice echoing on the quiet street. "The debt is real, so it stays. Dad, you owe $400 a month starting December 1st, exactly as you signed. I am not taking your house. I am just officially done paying for it. Mom, the homeowner's insurance is your problem now." I turned to my crying sister. "Chloe, your written confession letter goes out by December 1st to every single person who heard your lies. Not a bank error. The absolute truth. You mail it, or my lawyer files the theft charges and it goes into the public record instead. Your choice." My mother shrieked, "Why are you doing this to us at the holidays? Why can't you just keep it pleasant?" "Pleasant," I whispered, "was the most expensive thing this family ever bought, and I kept the receipts." I looked at all 3 of them standing on my steps. "You can have the fake piece. You can have the quiet, drama-free table. Take all of it. I am keeping my name." My mother straightened her spine, wiped her face, and turned back into a statue. She grabbed my father's arm, and they walked back to the car. Chloe lingered for a second, looking at me like I was a ghost, before whispering, "The confession letter will go out on Monday." They drove away into the dark. I walked back inside my quiet house, locked the heavy deadbolt, and smiled. The next day, Thanksgiving came up clear and incredibly cold. I roasted a massive turkey in Grandma Evelyn's cast-iron pan. I set a table for 3. Me, my best friend Sarah, and Mrs. Higgins, the elderly widow from next door. At 2:00 p.m., my doorbell rang. Standing on my porch, freezing and clutching a bag of grocery store dinner rolls, was my 15-year-old niece, Maya. "My mom thinks I'm at my friend's house," she smiled nervously. I pulled her inside. She ate 2 massive plates of food, helped wash Grandma's roasting pan in the sink, and asked me how she could start learning about finance, because somebody in this family should know how money actually works. On Monday, Chloe's confession letter went out via certified mail to the entire extended family. It was 2 cold, humiliating lines admitting she took the money and was repaying the estate. By December, the first $400 check arrived from my parents to pay down their massive loan. The memo line was completely blank. If there is one thing those 4 certified envelopes taught me, it is this. Peace that has to be continuously purchased with your sanity isn't peace at all. It is a suffocating debt. The family ledger finally balanced the night I stood on my freezing porch and refused to pay it anymore. If you have ever paid and paid and paid for a toxic family that never let you sit at their table, Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. And hit subscribe to the last chapter stories because next week, another quiet woman stops paying.